Queen of the stitch, my girl Dane.
Hello there, my crafty knitters. Welcome back to the Knitted Oaks channel. And this is episode 2 of my quick knit tips series. Okay, so today I want to talk to you about travel knitting. Okay, I live in the big city. I live in New York City. And I experienced the woes of travel knitting when I was actually traveling from Boston to New York on coming home from school one weekend. And I was traveling with a knitted project that was on my prized possession needles. I call them prized possession. They're my rosewood needles. And I show them all in a set in my other video, how I store my stash. So I'll put a link to that if you want to see the whole set. But these are 14 inches long. And I ended up on the coach bus coming home from Boston one weekend. And I was working on my project and I realized I was softly nudging the gentleman next to me with the needle because they're too long. And when you're on a coach bus or the train or the plane, you got to be cognizant and aware of who's sitting next to you. It could be a child because something like this could poke the child in the head or the eye. You want to be careful. So you don't want to go around obnoxiously with 14-inch needles like I did. So I learned my lesson. The gentleman was really cool because he was asleep, so he didn't realize I noticed that I was having trouble because you don't have that arm space. And when you're knitting, your hand is up here, but your needle is still dancing around behind you, you know? So you probably want to travel with something more like these. 10-inch size straight needles. If you're working on something that requires straights, 10 inches. I don't know if they make them any smaller than this, but this is probably the best to, as opposed to the 14-inch. So that's how much is not getting poked at somebody. So these still might, depending on how close you're sitting to someone, these might be uncomfortable for the person next to you. But my suggestion would be to either use my favorite, circulars. I love circulars. I learned how to knit on circulars. I didn't know a thing about straights until after. So circulars are good, or double pointed needles. This way you're not poking at the person next to you. Part 2 to this travel knitting knit tip is putting all your stuff in one easy little thing. Some knitters have one huge tote designated to their knitting. That's great. I don't have anything like that because normally I only need a few things when I'm traveling with my knitting, which is the project itself, the needles they're on, and like finishing up stuff. When I say finishing up stuff, I mean like blunt eye needles, a tape measure. I might lose sometimes my stitch marker, so I always have extras. If I'm working on a project that requires cables, a cable needle. And I also put a finishing touch on mine by sewing on my own label, name label. And to cut off the yarn, I have a small pair of scissors. And I keep this all in a little Ziploc bag like this. And this one is all battered and bruised, but they last, they're durable. I've had this for maybe 2 years and there's no holes in it. It just looks old and stuff, but you know, no one's scrutinizing that kind of stuff. So that is my quick knit tip for this week. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you're enjoying the series so far. I will post a link to episode 1 here, and stay tuned for episode 3 next week. Until then, remember, knitting is sexy. Bye.